Team, we operate under a simple philosophy of Ritz-Carlton service at the Hampton Inn price.
There you
So
go.
you're going to get high touch, high customer intimacy at a reasonable price. And that helps us really hold on to those customers and retain that business once we get it.
Yeah, that's a key takeaway for everybody listening. Okay, there's two things you do in business, right?
Are you tired of working more for less profits in your home service business? What if I could show you $100,000 in hidden annual profits in your business in less than 3 minutes? Would you be interested? And not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend guaranteed. Just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com to see how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now.
And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I got John Brooks with me today, and I'm looking forward to this conversation, as I do all our conversations, because they're stellar, because there's no room for bad guests. We don't make room for bad guests. We only get great guests. So John, no one knows John better than John. So John, backstory, bring us up to speed, and we're going to get into our conversation.
Absolutely. Well, Richard, first and foremost, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the content that you're putting out there, and I'll do my best to meet or exceed the bar. I'm John Brooks, CEO of Warehouse on Wheels. We've been building this company since 2018. Started with 2 locations and about 4,000 trailers. And as we meet today, we've got 37 locations and about 37,000 trailers. Our business is primarily focused around taking trailers when trucking firms are done with them. So think 10, 15 years after they're initially put into service. We refurbish them, and then we rent them to manufacturers, distributors, construction firms to provide flexible storage space, i.e. the name Warehouse on Wheels. So excited to be here today and looking forward to talking about what we do and how we built this business.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're going to get into all that, and I love it. I also love the application because, a lot of my listeners were service trades industry, right? So we got everyone doing something like that mobile storage, just storage in general. Like I always had a separate construction yard, right? I had office here, I had a construction yard here. We had metal containers, right? They drop those. We convert those and we do the whole thing. I'm welding. I'm doing all this stuff. When I first saw this, I'm like, that's an awesome solution. That's really innovative, so it's really cool. So that's why I'm excited to have you on. And sometimes we geek out over the weird things, like as the things you think.
I think my entire family now, every time they drive up and down the highway, they're always looking at the back of the trailer to figure out who owns it. So
That's
yeah,
right. That's right.
that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. So what was the initial, we'll just start from the kind of the beginning. So 2018, you come up with this idea. What gave you the idea? Was it necessity? Something you did for yourself, or what did that actually look like, John?
I was actually a customer of one of my largest competitors here in the greater Cincinnati area. I was running an operation where we imported a number of products from overseas, and the containers would never show up on time, and the warehouse was full of stuff. And I was renting about 150 of these storage trailers from my now competitor. And I put my CFO hat on and started thinking, well, maybe we should buy these. And then I started looking at the unit economics and thought, well, why don't I just get in the business of renting them? And so that really started the spark that started me down this path. We started by buying a small family business that really didn't have an exit strategy. And we had kind of the market intelligence to understand that there were a multitude of those out there. And so we started to roll up this space as well as, greenfield or creating new markets as we've grown. So really, I was a customer first.
Yeah, but that's a great place to start. And to me, this is part of I'll call it the entrepreneurial vision, is we're able to see things, right? We're able to see markets that may or may not be there, right? We see markets we can create, which I love. And this is really great. Once you see it, and you said something that's, of course, near and dear to my heart. You said they didn't have an exit strategy. Okay. Yes. So I preach as an exit strategy, right? From the beginning, absolutely. Right? We want that. And I also say, unless they don't, then they're, right? You're going to get that for 20 cents on the dollar. Okay. Because they haven't built their business to be sellable.
Correct.
Because an exit strategy is about having a sellable business. Someone would actually, as I say, hand you a check, you're out, I'm in, no one knows the business sold. That's a good business. But you're going to pay top dollar for that. In your case, you're seeing that vacancy, if you will, and you're grabbing it. and then you were able to scale that up.
Yeah, and I think your point on having an exit strategy kind of folds into what we're doing too, because having purchased essentially 25 family-owned businesses, we've seen a multitude of preparedness, I'll call it. Guys that show up with a shoebox full of receipts and say, here's my business, we want you to buy it, to the guys that show up with advisors and a sophisticated process and so forth. And there's a happy medium, but I would tell you for I think a lot of the folks that engage with this content, that advice about being prepared, about thinking about that ultimately might not be where you're at today, but make sure that you're building a business that's self-sustaining, that isn't so reliant upon you individually, that it really represents value to that next owner.
Amen, man. Amen. Yeah, you said it. That's the way it should be.
Yes, sir.
I spent 20 years in my first business not doing that. I was just making lots of money building cool stuff,
Right.
because I was never going to stop.
Yeah.
We all say that. That's the the idiocy of youth. That's what that is,
Well, and
So,
it's amazing too how the kids, while they enjoy all the nice spring break trips and the wonderful Christmases and all that the business provides, when it comes time and you think, okay, my exit strategies, I'm going to hand them the keys, they may or may not be interested in that business.
Yeah.
And we find that oftentimes in what we do because it's just trailers. We're renting
Well,
a box on wheels.
Yeah, they go, wait a minute. So, Dad, you couldn't get to half my games or no games. Daughter can't get to my recitals. We couldn't really have a vacation where you weren't on the phone the whole time. So they think, well, why do I want that business? I don't want anything to do with that business. I like my wife. I want to be with her. You know what I mean? So it's like, whatever. So yeah, you're exactly right. But it's really cool. So let's go through some of because everything is phases, right? It's stages, and you're going in this thing. You're starting to acquire these other businesses and build this out. Here's the first question I have. So obviously you begin with an idea and you think there's market viability. Okay. So, okay, cool. Well, everybody's at that point. And then they jump off, they start doing it. What was it's not a process, but like, what were you seeing as you bought first company, you bought another company, you started to get this going out there. Was it looking like, hey, could you see there a ceiling? Or are you going, hey man, we got a lot of room to grow here?
So for us, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. So we grow through acquisition. We've done the work, and we believe that there's probably about 400 plus acquisition targets out there for us in the US alone. But then we also applied what I call a greenfield strategy. So we found markets where there was a void for what we do, the unique storage solution, because we're not trying to lease new trailers. We're not trying to be supplements for trucking firms. We're focused on manufacturers, distributors, warehousers that need a solution. And so we've got that two kind of legged approach to growth. And that's really how we started to execute our plan. And in the early days, there were probably easier acquisitions to do, in certain markets. As you acquire one or two of the main providers, there's less opportunities to grow that way. You have to focus on the organic. So it served us well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I have a manufacturing client, and he's got exactly that in the parking lot. Yeah. He's got this thing go out because two of my kids work for him. Yeah. They have to go out and get certain, and it's that and he had already expanded.
Yeah.
Okay, so he expanded to a much bigger building, and now he's got that too. So it's really cool when you think about it. So yeah, as the business grows, here's a question. This might be kind of odd, but as you gain, like you're in, did you say 36 states?
We're actually in 37 markets. So from Montreal,
yeah.
Canada to Monterrey, Mexico.
Gotcha. Okay. So, but when you look at it now, you're growing and you're serving this. Does it become people might come and want my business? Yeah. I might want to approach John and sell him this, right? Do you kind of get that too? Do you get people approaching business brokers and what have you?
It's not so much on the broker side, but it's the good old boy network of what we do. And these guys all know each other. And once you make one acquisition in a market, oftentimes the others come along and at least want to kick the tires. And we run a very efficient process. We have kind of a playbook that we execute. So it's minimally invasive. We ask for a few key pieces of data and we cut right to the chase on the numbers. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, as they think about selling their business, they worry about, okay, oh my gosh, I've got to open my books. I've got to let people inside, all that sort of thing. We're very conscious of that. We try to really be emotionally intelligent, if you will. And so we ask for a few key pieces of data. We're going to give you a number, and then you can react one way or the other. Are you interested? Are you not interested? And then we can go to kind of the deeper dive next steps. And that's how we approach it.
I love it. I love it because you don't want, these people think, well, now they need me. You know what I mean? Oh, they're buying these up. So I have this position, and I like exactly what you said. You have a playbook. You're going to give them the number. Okay. There may not be a lot of negotiating going on, whether there is or not. I would think like it's here, it's take it or leave it because I got 30 other people to look at. Right.
Everybody counters. That's just the
Yeah,
nature.
I get
Again,
it. I get
a
it.
lot of these guys, we're all just trailer guys, so we like to wheel and deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's the nature of the business, isn't it? Yeah. So, but that's awesome. So what's, when you're looking forward, when you're forecasting, predicting, I mean, you say you've identified all these markets. You say 400? Is that the number you
Well,
said?
we think there's 400 targets, so 400 companies we could acquire in the
Gotcha.
U.S. as we continue
Okay.
to build out. So from our 25 track record, we think we got another 400.
Right. Yeah. You're good. So you got enough to do for another 18 months or so. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's good. But are you at this point? So that's 2018. We're at 7 years now in. Are you seeing about marketing? Are you seeing new applications for this? Or are you kind
But
of
I think
staying in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, so we're absolutely staying in our wheelhouse of 53-foot dry vans. So we're not in refrigerated units. We have a small position in flatbeds. You mentioned ground containers earlier. We have about 7,000 ground containers. So we participate in that market. But to be honest with you, there's still a level of solution education that has to go on. There are people in the supply chain that don't necessarily think of us as that next solution. And so building that brand awareness, that solution awareness is a big part of what we do from a sales and marketing standpoint. Because you'll find once we win hearts and minds, we hold on to customers. My team, we operate under a simple philosophy of Ritz-Carlton service at the Hampton Inn price.
There you
So
go.
you're going to get high touch, high customer intimacy at a reasonable price. And that helps us really hold on to those customers and retain that business once we get it.
Yeah, that's a key takeaway for everybody listening. Okay, there's two things you do in business, right? You get clients and then you keep clients. Okay, so it's a pretty simple model, right? So if you're able to figure that out, and I love your approach. I love that Ritz-Carlton with the Hampton price. I love that. It's really important. And I think too many people, John, in whether it's industry like yours or again, maybe you're in the trades business, you're in construction. I have a lot of guys like that. Like they don't think about the experience. Okay. And if you can if you wrap your head around the experience of what you offer, it doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter how dirty it is. Doesn't matter how clean it is. Whatever the situation, it's the experience that people pay for. Okay.
Do you make that buyer's life easier? Whatever it is, whatever they're buying from you, that homeowner that you're going into their home to make a repair or whatever, when you leave, is it cleaner than when you showed up? And does the solution work? And all those sorts of things. So I think that's really at the heart of what we try to do.
Yeah. It's outcome based. What's the outcome? What is it? We talk benefits and features and all that stuff, but the benefit, like what is their life like after they use your service or product, right?
Absolutely.
That's where the mind needs to go. Too many guys are in the process, the making of it, like making the sausages, that stuff no one wants to see being made. They're too into that. Okay.
Right.
Okay. You don't see that on the commercial. All right. So it's about I always tell people, here's their pain and their problem right here. All they want to know, they don't need to know how, they need to know the outcome.
Right.
Give me the sunshine and rainbows.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I want my life to have. If you can do that and communicate that very well, okay, you can leap over. You don't have to tell them how. They don't care.
Right.
Okay, it's just how it is.
Absolutely.
And I use the medical example on that. I come in, my arm's been cut half off. I'm in incredible pain. The doc says, here, take these two things, and the pain will go away. I'm not asking for the breakdown of what's in those things.
Exactly.
I am swallowing it, and the pain goes in. That's all I want. So we skip over the how and the what. Just get me there, okay?
Exactly.
Get me the happiness. So yeah, it's good. So I love it. And I love that, John, because when customer service is, and I've had a number of really high-end customer service guys on the show, and I got more coming on, but because I really feel it's a cornerstone of any business. And you're saying, yeah, no kidding, right? But a lot of people, all the business I work with, like that's what lacks probably the most in their business. They just don't have the attention to it. They seldom will look at it from the customer's perspective, which is what you must have done, right? You really had to get out there because you're solving their problem. So there has to be a way to communicate them and speak their language, not your language, right?
No, you're absolutely right. One of the projects that we did early on in building this company is a voice of the customer. So we actually went out and took teams of people that weren't salespeople and sat down and asked the customer a series of questions that had nothing to do with us trying to rent them trailers. It was not a sales call. It was not a marketing call. It was trying to understand the whys of why they do business with their best suppliers. What are those key characteristics, those driving forces? And then we hold ourselves to those standards and that feedback that we receive. And to your point, everyone's going to say we got great customer service, but do you really measure it? Do you have data that supports that assertion? Because you can give it lip service all day long, but you are not going to use it to your strategic advantage if you're not going to measure it just like you do all your other productivity stats that you look at.
Yeah, this is critical, what you just said, right? It's like you go to a store or a restaurant and on the door, the window says, whatever, we guaranteed a satisfied customer. Like,
Right.
what the heck does that mean?
Right.
That's the most ambiguous statement. And you actually put it in vinyl on your door. Are you kidding me? Like, you got the worst coffee I've ever tasted. I'm not satisfied. Okay. The guy next to me loves it. He's on his fourth cup. Okay. So I'm like, what does that actually mean? Right. And the metric aspect is so important, what you're talking about. Like, and I've been guilty of this too. We lack measurement of the things that matter. Right. And that's really the point. It's like, if you're not tracking, if you're not measuring it, you can't improve it. Okay. Well, that's kind of a given. Yeah. Right.
Right.
So I think what I'm hearing from you too, which is really great, is do that survey business. I'll call it a survey. I don't have a better word than what you did, but I think you really went out and you surveyed customers. That's what you do. My wife used to do these survey things. They'd pay you like $100. Like she did one on bananas.
Yeah.
You had to go and had to like talk about how many spots is too many. How many bread? Like they were into the banana, brother. I'm
Absolutely.
talking like it was like a 2-day thing. It was like 2 days on bananas. It was crazy. It was bananas. Okay. But really but that's the detail you need to be in. Like, because yours is about customer retention.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're going to get them. I'm not saying you don't focus on that, but it's the retention. It's like,
that's the real value.
Right. Cause I can sell something, pretty much anything to someone once. Okay. But the good news is if they bought from you once, they'll buy again if you don't completely drop the ball. But
Absolutely.
If you don't have that dialed in, it's the repeat you want. It's the 5-year of service. It's the 10 years. It's the 2 years, right? It's not the upfront first kind of, the first purchase. So that's why this experience that you've created is so important when we're doing this. Again, regardless of the product or service. Right. I love it. So take us from there. So you got this, you got retention dialed in. Okay. They're doing it. What do you do? I don't know if it's a what you do question. Now just so as everyone usually knows from listening to this podcast, we're just thinking on our feet here. We don't plan anything.
I love it.
So, I just milling this stuff and I'm on the fly here all the time. So this is real time. That's always real time.
Tip of the spear, tip of the tongue.
That's right. So what I'm saying is, like, as you develop this and you're working with these customers, so and again, I'm thinking real time here. How can I get them to use more?
Right.
Like obviously you probably have that woven into your concept in the business plan, but is that a successful approach? Is that a lot of work? Is it like, hey, you got 3 trailers. I think you need 5. I mean, or what's the next arm? Like, how does that work for you guys?
I think for us, if the experience is positive, if we're responsive, if we're living up to the Ritz-Carlton service, those things naturally evolve. I have a very meaningful, well-known brand that is an automotive manufacturer, and they started probably 20 years ago with 20 trailers. And we currently have probably 1,500 trailers with them. We're now ingrained in their supply chain, and that happened through the delivery of service. So we delivered a ready to go to work asset. And if something happens in the course of using that ready to go to work asset, we're responsive, we're getting it repaired, we're getting it back in line. And so I always tell folks I love talking about that customer in particular because they're one of the most sophisticated manufacturers in the world. They invented the manufacturing process in a lot of ways. And so if they trust us and have been using us as a solution for 20 plus years, I'm quite confident it's an optimal solution. And so for us, it's delivering on that promise every day, and you get that natural growth.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's important to understand. I mean, this is for whatever reason, we're going to keep going back to this customer service thing. Okay. Because again, when I say cornerstone, it's a cornerstone. This is creating additional business for you. So even though, yes, you're serving the individual client, but it's creating that I'll call it expansion, if you will, right?
Absolutely.
Increase usage and everything else. So I think that's really important because for me, when we do, whether I'm doing business coaching or I'm manufacturing cabinets, whatever that is, built in houses, whatever we're doing, it's that referral, if you will. I guess you'd call it referral
Yeah,
business, right?
absolutely.
So, and of course, quality reviews. People love you. They'll talk about you. You can get those things in written, in video, and the whole thing is, again, that's all part of the expansion program, right? Really sharing what you guys do to get to the level you're at now. With that in mind, I'm thinking, this additional usage, because you always, well, let me ask you this. I'll back it up for a second. What's your philosophy on growth? Okay. And what I mean is, like, we talk exit strategies and all this kind of stuff, right? So you got that in place, but like, do you see a ceiling? Do you see a cap? Do you see, hey, look, 4 years from now, we're going to have to pivot in this direction and we're going to have to start doing this. We don't do it now, but are you actually implying this kind of strategy as you're building and growing the business? Where do you see it going? Because you got your Amazon everything store. Okay. Or you've got you doing exactly what you do and doing it on a larger scale. Like, what does that look like?
Well, we think there's a ton of white space out there. I mentioned the population of acquisition targets. Our North Star that we're shooting for is 100 locations and 100,000 trailers. So kind of X of where we're at today. At that point, I think some of the general rental guys will probably wake up to our offering and think, okay, this would be a really neat kind of another leg to our offering and what we do and how we serve our customers. So maybe that's the case, 5 years down the road or whatever the case might be. But we've just got a ton of white space. I tell our shareholders, our investors, so we've built a rocket and we have the flight plan. We're looking for jet fuel. And so that's really what I'm asking them to trust us with and to partner with us so that we can do the things that we continue to execute time and time again. So we keep it simple, we keep it focused. We stay really engaged with our team members. We've talked a lot about customer service and how we treat our customers and measuring that. We actually spend a lot of time measuring how we treat our team members. So we do employee engagement surveys. We ask open-ended questions a couple times a year. One is, what's the silliest thing we're doing as a company? What's the single best idea you have to improve the business? And then when I get in front of all 300 of our team members each quarter, we actually take those specific elements of feedback and we address them back to the group. So for me, it's just validating you spoke, we listened, and here's where we're at. And so as much time as our team spends focused on the outside, part of my mission and one of my main jobs is that focused on the inside and building that culture.
Yeah, that is awesome. So we're pretty aligned. We get other people speaking to this too. I do this a lot. I tell them there's the three things. It's when people come to work for someone, they want purpose, they want recognition, quality feedback, and they want quality pay. And it's in that order. Okay. And then you kind of hit it all, and it's really important that people that, they listen to that. And because it does tie into customer service. If your people don't know the mission, we call it vision, the vision you're trying to build here, how can they be a part of it? How can they have that sense of purpose? Because everyone's got to work to make a vision come true. It's not a mission statement. That's wallpaper. I tell people that only feeds the ego of the owner. Okay. The mission statement never involves.
It's word art for the wall, to your point.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible. Okay. We need strategic vision, how everyone's the hero in that part of the journey, how we're all moving forward in the next 18 to 24 months, what we're going to accomplish, not what we're doing, and it's really cool when you make a focus on that because it's a people driven business.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's that kind of approach that makes such a difference because it comes through in the end product or service, right? That's what it is. You'd agree, right? Like that's why, XYZ on the end being served and going from 20 to 1,500 trailers is because of what they felt inside the company coming out, how
Absolutely.
they're serving the people, right? So but
If those team members are engaged, that drives that higher level of customer service. And one of the big things we do too is all our folks. So we're private equity owned, which means we have outside investors that own the controlling interest in the business. And the business typically is sold every, call it 5 or so years. Every team member has a stake in that happening. So every team member will benefit and receive a reward for that next event. So as we build towards that goal, as we build the enterprise value by serving our customers with that Ritz-Carlton service, there will come a time where every member of the team, from the most junior to the most senior, is going to benefit from that effort. In addition to, you get paid every week, you get to work at a nice place that focuses on safety and taking care of you in the meantime. You've got an upward trajectory. We invest a ton in learning and development. We actually have a current PhD who leads our learning and development efforts. So we got learning plans for folks. We're trying to make them better than they were the day before. And so I'm just really proud of what we've done.
well, I'm proud of you, John.
It just
That is,
matters if mom is. That's the
dude,
goal.
that's right. Well, but I really, that's fantastic because what I've seen over years and years is just they ignore those things. So I'm a big fan now about making your people not just competent in their skill sets, but better as people. Right? We elevate them as people. To me, that's the game changer, if you will. Because when they become better as people, they take that home. They don't go home and work on trailers and talk about trailer, whatever, right? But they go home, if they're better as people, they make a difference in their family, and their families are in the communities, and now they can affect the community with the same thing. So your business has this ability to influence so many people, way more than who's under your employment. I'm air quoting, right?
Absolutely.
And that I think if more owners had this mindset, okay, not sometimes as an owner we think that everybody wants to own a business. They want our job. I got news for you. They don't. Okay, they do not. Or could they do what we do? Right? We're odd. Okay, we're cut from a different cloth. But there's a lot of people that want to work, make a difference, and be happy about it. Like they want to actually be excited to go to work. I
Absolutely.
used to always tell people, like, my favorite day of the week is Monday. I said, weekends are chaos. I got 6 kids. You know what that's like on the weekend? I go to work to relax. So people, you got to think about these things. You got to put this stuff together because sometimes it's like if people have a place to go, okay, like work where they spend over a third of their life, right? Like that matters, And again, it's just like customer retention. You boost that employee retention like you are, like they've got that every 5-year kind of big win along with all the little wins. Dude, that's attractive.
Yeah, and I think it shows in our retention. We're extremely blessed and minimal turnover and throughout all levels of the organization. So again, as the CEO, it's one of my main focuses and missions. It's my responsibility. That buck stops with me.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Again, another good thing, we talk about this often too, is it does start at the top. That's where it all begins. I mean, whether you've read Extreme Ownership by Jocko, okay, great book, phenomenal book.
I'm a disciple. I've been all the way
Okay.
through to the on-site with him out in Washington State.
Beautiful.
If you walk through our offices, actually, oh, you can't see it, but I have Default Aggressive, the poster signed by him. We've got the disciplines and all the things up on the wall. And when you come to work for us, you actually get a copy of Extreme Ownership, and we send you to muster their that 3-day event.
I love it.
So we're dying them all on the wool.
Well, here's another side thing. They know each other. Have you read Talent War?
I have not.
By Mike Salieri. So they were like
Okay.
managing partners together and all their stuff, right? So get that book.
Okay.
We're getting geeky here now. It's the best HR book. It's the best HR book you ever read because it's by a Navy SEAL and you got war stuff. And it's like, who doesn't want to read that?
Yeah,
okay. And it's
absolutely.
about HR. It is fun. I had Mike on my show. Him and George Randall, they wrote the book together. Great way. It was one of my best interviews.
Okay.
It was just, but you'll love it.
Absolutely.
Talent War. Just get that. You'll love it. But I'm like you. Everyone on my team reads Extreme Ownership. And I have a way to check if they did. They have to do the fillable PDF. to
Yeah.
verify.
Yeah. We give them
I'm
the
like,
workbook too. Yeah,
yep,
we do.
yep. So
And
I am.
then,
I don't
yep,
play. Yeah.
yep,
So I love it, and it's these things, and this is just fun, John. Like we're connecting. Like when you have someone who's aligned, and we're looking for excellence. Okay, and it doesn't matter what the industry is. Excellence is excellence. So we talk a lot about, and I'd like to get your feedback on this, high bar and low bar. So I'll have these conversations once in a while with people. Like everyone gets high bar.
mhm,
Okay, hey, we want these standards and they're way up here and we need to get this. And, like 3 of the 530 people reach that. Okay. And then we talk low bar and they're like, well, whatever. Low bar is not whatever. Low bar is your most important thing.
right,
I tell them like because people say, well, when do you get rid of someone? Well, that's part of the low bar. But I also asked this question. I said, okay, if I got Jimmy over here and he works for me and Jimmy shows up every day, works every day, doesn't miss time, only takes time off when he asks for it and whatever. And that's okay, rarely. And he just does the low bar every day. He meets the low bar every day. Doesn't go above the low bar, much higher, right? Is he a good employee or a bad employee? And I say, and most people say, well, he's a bad employee. No, he's a good employee.
yeah,
You set the low bar.
right,
Okay. And if I get Jimmy and he shows up every day and does that, I'm actually happy because I got a guy who shows up every day, does, it's the minimum. Well, hey, slowly creep up the low bar. Jimmy
right.
will go with it.
That's right.
Okay. There's just low bar people,
Yeah,
but if they're consistent,
right.
that's okay. Your high bar those are going to be your unicorns almost, right? I mean, we get it, and why aren't they too close together? Well, that's your problem, right? You got to creep that up slowly and understand there is a ceiling to the low bar. I know that sounds weird, but it's like there's people who are just not going to perform above that, but you need to get those basics done. So,
Absolutely.
and understand that the problem is, John, you've probably seen this. You get that slacker Steve, I call him, and you got Super Sally up here at the high bar, and they
Mhm.
both are supposed to do the same thing. And you
Doesn't
keep
work.
slacker Steve. Where does Super Sally go? Down the road.
That's
Okay,
right.
she ain't staying, right? So
That's right.
that's what people need to understand. And when
Mhm.
Sally's treated differently because she's a high performer, that's okay. All right. Low bar guy is treated that way because he's a low bar guy and he's happy with it. Right. So once you define that, and I've had to do that a lot, like I really had to kind of define that myself with kind of what I said. And for companies, I go in and try to do this because they don't have they have some standards, but they really haven't defined that low bar. I think it's important. What's your take on that?
Well, I think what we try to do is we try to ground it one in extreme ownership. So whatever you're faced with, you own it. Okay. So fundamentally, the buck stops with you. If something needs to get fixed, if you don't like something about what's happening, it starts with you. Okay. And that's from me all the way through the organization. The other thing that I do is when you come to work for us, you get a welcome packet. We'll give you some t-shirts, hats, all the cool stuff with the logo on it. But I also include a letter called the Ultimate Expectation. And in that letter, I talk about that you've been hired to do a job, and we expect you to do that job to the fullest of your potential, safety focused, but we expect you to show up every day and do that. But you also have the expectation that if you see something that makes us safer, that takes better care of the customer, or our team member, you're expected to just take that action. You don't have to wait to ask permission. If those are the measures by which the decision needs to be made, you are empowered from day one to make that decision, but you're also expected to make that decision. So, what I try to instill in folks from the very beginning is yep, you're hired to do a job. You're hired to be a trailer mechanic in our shop or an accounts payable clerk in our accounting department, and we expect you to be the best one that there is at that job. But in the meantime, as you encounter other things and see other things about the business, you're also empowered and expected to make decisions that move us all forward and that are in the best interest of the whole team. So, again, this idea that from the very beginning, you got to own it. You're on this team. There's an expectation of what you bring. You can't just sit on the sidelines and wait for somebody else to do it. We hope that that starts to build that mindset. And when you supplement that within the learning programs that we do, the training and development we invest in, which the users get to pick courses. They get to pick their roadmap of what they want to learn beyond some fundamentals we need to teach them about their job. I think that really starts to ingrain them in that mindset of I'm here, but maybe I can get to here, or I'm here and I aspire to be here. And so that cultural mindset of continuous learning, of engagement, of ownership, I think that goes a long way to help move those bars. Where it's not just me saying, "Hey, we got to raise the bar." People are naturally finding their way to raise the bar.
I love it. I love it. Like I said, yeah, that's awesome. I love creating problem solvers, right? People like you say, you take the initiative and you do it. Okay.
Right.
Those are problem solvers. Okay.
Right.
You build that mentality in your business. Again, regardless of what it is, people are like getting things done. They're not knocking on your door, right? But they're making those little improvements here and there. They're taking care of those problems and releasing burden off maybe the higher management or even at your level, right? I think it's really important that that's something that's instilled in the company that, you can't come to me just with a problem. We do what I learned as the 3S, right? Here's the situation. Here's some solutions. Here's my suggestion
Right.
on the
I
solution,
love
right?
it.
You come with those. Now you can come knock on my door or whoever is,
Right.
next in charge. And then you
Right.
say, I'm going to go with B for a solution.
Right.
Okay. Well, B may work, but I see one little problem may do this. So C really is going to be your best option. Okay. All right. Go do C. Now they know for the future. And now they just learned how to even fine tune their solutions. And that mentality, that changes a lot of things inside because you don't become an enabler as an owner, right? And then they start to create that independence and wrap that in with what you do. They see it, say it, do it, get the stuff done. I love it. I think that's a powerful business strategy.
One of the other things we do is I think it's 60 days, we bring all the most recent hires together for a town hall chat with me, where I just kind of share the history of the business, the extreme ownership focus, kind of culturally what we're trying to achieve, our safety focus. And at the end of that session, every time I give them my personal cell phone number, the only one I got. I don't have a burner. I don't have a work phone. I don't have any of that. The one that my wife calls me on. And I give them that number. And I tell them, I said, you have access to me. You now have my personal cell phone number that my children call me on. And if you need me, you call me. Now, when you do, I'm going to ask you if you've got a problem. Did you talk to your supervisor? What was the results? I'm going to want to understand the process you've gone through and how you see it. And I'm going to try to help. I'm not going to solve everything, but just know you have access. And I got some good old boys that probably take advantage of that. And
Yeah.
my wife sometimes wonders about how crazy I am doing that. But in the end, again, it's all just fostering that transparency, that access, that culture, because I just don't want to talk about it. I don't want it to just be words on a wall. I want to live it. And so that's what we try to do.
I love it. And when you started saying that, I'm going, so I'm holding my breath here, waiting to hear the end, but I needed to hear some direction towards chain of command, and you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There's a chain of command, and you go to this
there is.
person, that doesn't, as you go to the next one. So that's all good. But I love that. I love it. I really think it's great. So again, this is fun stuff, John. Really, really fun stuff. So what I want people to really take away here overall, I think what's more important than even if it's the 100 locations, 100,000 trailers, whatever that is the company culture aspect, what you've done inside the business, because that's where the real success is. Okay. Because I think if that's dialed in and what you're proving is the external outside will take care of itself, but you've got to have the people inside. The company's got to be running the proverbial well-oiled machine, right? Doing that. So for these people they got the purpose, they got the feedback, the recognition, and they got the quality pay and all that great stuff. And they got these big wins, every 5 years and all that stuff. You put together such a nice package in this. So here's where my question has to go. In 2018, you're going to do this, like what, and I know that you didn't figure all this out in 2018. Okay. But like what really led you to build it this way? Is it previous experience with other businesses because this is not something you just poof, I do it. Okay.
So this is my first time being a CEO. So I've built my career primarily as a CFO, so a chief financial officer, or in a more of a chief operating officer role. And I've been fired a few times.
Good for you.
I've had a few things not work out, and I have run into enough people that I kind of have a lot of lumps on my bald head that are covered by this hat. So I think that's the core of it. I think it's appreciating pain points that other CEOs didn't see, or things that I wish we would have done different in other experiences. So it's life lessons. It's hard knocks, not hard knocks because they're first world problems. Trust me, there are people that have way bigger challenges than anything I've faced. Just trying to be attentive to that. And fundamentally, the topic I've referred to as emotional intelligence. Having literally the emotional intelligence to be able to have empathy through all levels of the organization and all levels of experience. And that'll really drive so much of your behavior. And
So,
Jocko and Leif, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but those guys were, it was instrumental. I met those guys right about the time the book was released. So the story goes, I'm in San Diego at a dinner with one of my private equity sponsors at the time, and I'm late to the dinner, and there's only one seat left in the whole place. And it's between these two guys that look like they were out of central casting for the Marine Corps, okay, which Jocko's Navy guys, but and I sit down, and for 2 hours through dinner, they're telling me about all the stories about Ramadi and everything, and it's amazing, okay? I'm just eating this stuff up. Then they get up after dinner, and they give probably the first extreme ownership presentation. I'm pretty sure there was a typo in the slide deck even. So they're up there in suits, which now they don't wear
right.
suits anymore, and they're telling the story, and I was hooked. I bought the book on my way back. I read the thing in record time, and it was I think very fundamental to transforming kind of how I think about it.
That's awesome. That is when I read it too, same thing. I gave it to my son, who's now a Marine. Okay.
Yeah.
He's guard
Thank you
nemesis,
for that.
and stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was a Marine, so I get it, right? So I have all that. And then, but I read that and I'm like, I'm just, you're just dripping every page, man. I'm like, this is just, the whole thing was just spectacular. And I'm like, this is, same thing with the talent war. I said, these are now required reading for my people, just like you. You get those, and there's not a lot of books like that. Like, you can have excerpts from books, but when you go cover to cover and you can say this matters, it's really awesome. And I think to what you said too, like leadership is learned. Okay. It's not, no one's born a leader or any of that kind of stuff they say. It's like you said, the knots on your head. Okay. You're getting all that. I wrote a whole book on my failures. Okay. So, and like, here, look at this. I did 20 years. I thought I was killing it. I lost everything. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've all done the stupid stuff, but that is what makes us good. That's what brings us to a level of higher achievement. I'll call it that, without using the greatness word, but it really is understanding that like you have to go through those, seasons, those periods. And like, if there is such a person who says they've never failed, I'm first going to call him a liar. But secondly, it's like, well, then you've done nothing. You've never challenged yourself.
You haven't pushed hard enough.
That's the same thing. I'm like, well, I don't want you around. You ain't gonna, come on now. Like I always tell people,
I do it on a regular basis, but if you've never worked out to the point where you got sick, then you've probably not pushed yourself.
Dude, I did that this morning. I did that this morning.
I'm not that consistent, but
I did the battle ropes and squat, dude. I get done and I'm like, whoa. And that's what I do like every day when I work out. I love it. I need to push myself very hard, but it is that aspect of like, what can you do? I had the I'll call it the pleasure. My son, just before he shipped to the embassy, so he'd been in a little over a year in the Marine Corps. We got to be on a podcast together and be interviewed, and it was amazing, right? So she's asking him all these questions. And I'm saying next to nothing, but listening to him. Okay. And I'm just sharing this because he talks about discipline. He talks about timing and having that diligence, and all that determination. It's like, so he's just looking at him and go, wow, like you're my child, like it's really cool. But, right. But when they haven't like, and here's something I realized, and this will go with what we're talking about here. She'd ask him like, well, why'd you do this? Or why is this? How do you get through this so hard thing or whatever? He goes, it's really about discipline. So I want to be able, and this is what he goes, I want to be able to protect my family. Now he's honestly never had a girlfriend yet. Okay. Like he goes, I want to be able to protect my family, whether it's my hands or a weapon. So I'm doing all this. And he said about a few other things. Now I realized I've done a lot of great things, really cool stuff. I've done whatever, right? But I did it to do the thing. Right? He's doing it for later. Like at that level at 20 years old to be able to think like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you are light years ahead of where I was
absolutely
at 20 years old, but I'm like, that is going to serve you so well. You know what I mean? And that's business. we have to understand what we're doing today. What you did in 2018,
Mhm.
that conference to
Right.
go with Jocelyn, like that's a game changer, man. That was
Right.
strategy.
Right.
You didn't know it at the time,
Right.
but as you read the book, you came back and you can now have this thing that, I mean, and look at it now.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want people to think about that, because as business owners, there's tactical and there's strategic.
Mhm.
Tactical is your little fires that flare up today and we got to solve a problem. We get that, right? And you've empowered people to do that and everything else. But strategy is that chessboard, right? It's looking down the road 18 months, a year, 5 years. Where are we going? What's the outcomes we're looking to have and how do we get them? Really incredible. I see you've done that very well with
Well,
your
thank you
company.
for that.
You know what I mean? It's
The team has done it for sure, but I
well,
appreciate
that's it. But it all starts at the top. So you got to take a little credit. If it all starts there, you can't only take all the blame. You got to take a little credit once in a while too. Okay, it's just the nature of the beast. But humility's good; it's very important. But I'll bang your chest for you.
There you
Okay?
go.
You
Well, I'm
got
short,
that.
fat, and bald, so
Yeah, well, it's
humility's
good.
easy.
Well, yeah, I'm genetically inclined to humility. Yeah, it's awesome. That is awesome. Well, John, this has been fantastic. We've really hit some incredible things. Give us some final thoughts, takeaways, whatever you got. Let's get out. Then we'll kind of share who you are, where you are, where they can follow, and anything else that you might want to do.
No, I appreciate that. No, this has been awesome. I've done a few of these, and this is probably one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had. So thank you for that, first and foremost.
Yes.
You're doing a heck of a job and a great service. I would say for the guys out there that are building businesses, thinking about the external and the internal, and really as an owner and as a builder of the business, the internal is just as important, if not a little more, in the early days, because you got to build that foundation. You got to build the right rocks upon which to then grow the business. To your point earlier about, what's the plan? I think you have to carve out the time from the day-to-day firefight of running a business and serving customers to think about what is the plan and where are we going. And that'll lead you down paths for other preparedness, if you will. So just really honored to be here. Really think that this, again, a great platform, and the folks that are listening here, I'm very grateful for you, because the skilled trades are, just like first responders in our military, it is a select few. It is a very gifted few in my mind, and a very important few to the success of our country, quite honestly. So just honored to be here and appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. So, any websites, anything?
You
Have you
you
written
can
the book
find us.
yet? Have you written the
No,
book
no,
yet? Why not?
I have
Why
not.
not?
Too
There's a
busy
book in you.
business.
No, there's a book in you. I banged mine out in like 3 weeks. Come on, you can do it.
Yes,
It's a
sir. Yes, sir.
bestseller. You can do it.
Extreme ownership on that.
That's right.
No, you can find us at wowtrailers.com. Obviously, if we can help you on any of your job sites, can help you guys avoid any of this tariff chaos. I tell you, a lot of folks in the HVAC space and other plumbing and so forth, guys will be buying ahead, buying inventory to avoid the tariffs. We can provide the trailers for that at a cost-effective solution, much cheaper than warehouse. We're a great alternative to warehouse space if you've outgrown your space. 30-day evergreen contract, you're in and out of it as you need to. So I think it's a really unique solution, could be very helpful to some folks. So find us at wowtrailers.com. Follow me on LinkedIn, Jonathan Brooks. Would love to have you. And again, thanks for the time.
John, thank you. It has been absolutely magnificent. I'm going to use the M word. It's been magnificent.
Well, you're pretty good at this, Richard. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. All right. For everybody else, we will see you on the next STS podcast. And don't forget, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So if you want to see how I can show you at least $100,000 in hidden annual profits in less than 3 minutes, and not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed, just go to sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. See how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. Do it now.